My goodness, just missed a hummingbird buzzing by. Chapter 8. It was September when Abel evolved another scheme for getting home. He would catapult himself across the stream. With his clothes stuffed full of grass for a cushioned landing, using a small stump as a winch, he tried with a rope to bend a sapling down to the ground so it could fling him over the water. But he managed to bend it only 2.5 taels. That was all the wood yielded to his strength. So this scheme too miscarried. A few days later, he succeeded in making fire. He had learned about the primitive methods in school, but he had never tried for himself. After a series of failures, he finally found the right kind of stick to twirl in the right piece of dry wood, and the right kind of tinder to flare with the first flame. His fires were as magical to him as they had been to his prehistoric ancestors. He first used his fires for smoke beacons to attract the attention of some civilized being who might just possibly be among the trees on the far shores. When he had a fire burning, he would partially cover it with damp leaves so that it sent up a thick white smoke. He learned to roast his seeds by placing them on rocks close to the fire. Later, he was able to cook various vegetables, flavored with wild garlic or onions, in pots made of a reddish clay from the lower end of the island. The clay was baked hard in prolonged, intense firing. He also made paper-thin bowls of this clay, and from time to time he would float one down the river with a note in it, and a flower or sprig of grass sticking out to attract notice. One of his notes: "Whoever finds this, please forward it to my wife, Amanda de Chirico Flint, 89 Bank Street, Mossville. Dearest angel, I am alive. I am alone on an island, marooned, somewhere above where this note will be found, God willing. There is a tall cherry birch on the northern end of the island. The island is about 12,000 taels long and is below a waterfall. Do not worry, but send help. My utmost and entire love, Abel. Whoever finds this, please send help too. I will be able to give a substantial reward." Sometimes Abel would climb to the top of his birch or some other tree and wave his white shirt up and down and back and forth for many minutes, hoping that someone would make a miraculous appearance, return his signal, and come to the rescue. There was no point in yelling. The river was too noisy for his halloos to carry. During the equinoctial rains, he spent the whole of a dismal day indoors, listening to the unceasing downpour on the outside of his log, watching it through his door and through portholes he had made, the infinite pall of falling rain, the sagging, wet vegetation, the drops dripping from everything as if counting themselves, the runnels and pools, the misty distances, and feeling an ancient melancholy. So it mentioned the equinox there. Well, that was the root word of that word, equinoctial, which I'm not sure if I'm saying correctly, but we just try to say an unfamiliar word and learn it. And some of you might know that the equinox is, there's a spring one and a fall one, and it's either September 21st or 22nd, and it's when the summer turns towards autumn or fall. So more time has passed. Rain caused one to reflect on the shadowed, more poignant parts of life, the inescapable sorrows, the speechless longings, the disappointments, the regrets, the cold miseries. It also allowed one the leisure to ponder questions unasked in the bustle of brighter days. And if one were snug under a sound roof, as Abel was, one felt somehow mothered, though mothers were nowhere around, and absolved of responsibilities. Abel had to cherish his dry log. At night, when it cleared up, he went out in the wet grass and watched a young moon vanishing behind clouds and reappearing over and over like a swimmer out in the sea. Then he went inside the log, barred the entrance, and lay down with Amanda's scarf. Drugged with the aroma of rotting wood, he lost consciousness. There was a din of crickets outside, and the pauseless roar of the river, and the stately world was illumined with pearly moonlight, but inside the log it was dark and hushed, like a crypt. The castaway dreamed all night of Amanda. They were together again in their home, but their home was not 89 Bank Street in Mossville. It was a garden, something like the island, and full of flowers. What was marvelous about this otherwise ordinary dream was that Abel knew he was dreaming, and was certain that his wife was dreaming the very same dream at the same time, so that they were as close to each other as they'd ever been in the solid world. Think about what kinds of dreams you have had. All right. What happened there? Any new plot developments? Is Abel just going to stay on the island? His life seems to be sort of happy now, and he's figuring out ways to make his life good, and he's thinking and enjoying himself, and it seems like he's really immersed in nature.